esteemed honor to have this gentleman on my show today, Jared Barto. We know each other through entrepreneurial connections and groups and people. And what a story he has to share. So, Jared, welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast.
Lethea, thank you. Glad to be here. It was funny because we were just talking about stats, and one of the things that popped up, congratulations, by the way, of your increasing rank.
Oh, thank you.
And when you talked about like when you stopped looking, that's when it kind of does more of that compression. And I'm like, that's good because we're probably going to talk some bits in my story too of how that works. So I'm glad it's all tying together.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. It is exciting, and I'm so happy to have you up here at a time like this. But what I want to do first is I always like to start with a lighthearted, random icebreaker question. Has nothing to do with what we are going to talk about. So, Jared, this is the question for you. Would you rather be an extra in an Oscar-winning movie or the lead in a movie that bombs at the box office?
Oh, lead in a movie that bombs has to be. I'm
Tell us
all
why.
for. Okay, so I'm all for. As you can see, I have my chaos coordinator mug today.
Yes.
I was on a stage play in high school for a friend of mine that we grew up with. She didn't have anybody to be the lead, like the lead dropped out and everything. And I looked, I was like, Nancy, I might have time to do this. She goes, listen, it's horrible. I don't like it, but we need somebody. Are you in? I'm like, well, now that you sold it, I'm in. I have to be. We had so much fun with that. Like it was a movie. It was a show that we did that everybody had a really good time doing it. And even if it bombs, like that's where it's like, if you have a really good time with it, you're not really, you don't care about the outcome. You're just really enjoying that. And if I can play up the corniness that I bring to situations and the weird factor and just kind of increase it where people are like, did he just say that? Did he really just do that? I'm in. It sounds great. I'm in.
I love that answer. And I'm a former theater person myself. And I thought about this question and I said, I'd rather be the lead in a movie that bombs too. Because
that's why we do. That's why we do.
you can come back from that, but a lot of actors, whether they're famous or not, there's one performance or play. It might not even be your performance. You may have acted amazingly, but the movie or the play itself it just explodes and it's like, yikes. So that's a really great answer. I'm glad you answered it like that.
Yep. Yeah.
And what was the play called? Do you even?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember the title.
Yeah.
All I remember is it was supposed to be like a spoof off of a murder mystery. And the way she originally wrote it, it was kind of a darker. And I'm like, your detective seems aloof. He seems like he doesn't really know what he just kind of stumbles into the answer. It's not even like a Columbo side. It's not even like a Mr. Bean or a Pink Panther type. It's just he stumbled into it and he doesn't even realize he stumbled into the victory. And he's so confident, but he's wrong. But he's right at the same time. I'm like, you wrote a very complex character. It needs to be witty. You have to like dark humor to it. So it was in that vein where the only part that really stood out to me was two parts. A buddy of mine jumped in on it. He wrote some music for it, and he kind of did like the really like dark piano behind it and starting off scenes and whatever. If you've ever seen Blue's Clues, the original Blue's Clues was Steve, right?
Yes.
And he always had the handy dandy notebook to write out his clues. Well, I bought a handy dandy notebook, and I didn't show the crowd until the very end when I was supposed to like come up with who did it and how I figured it out. So I had the spotlight on me, and I sat down on the stage. And I reached in my pocket. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I pushed it out like this to the crowd and everybody got it. They got this stupid joke. It was perfect. And that's what I really remember from that is I didn't tell my friend that I was doing the screenwriter. I was like, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. So everybody liked it. But that's how
I like
the gist
that
of it was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. And this is what I love is just getting to know more about us as people. Life can be serious enough and can be really intense enough. And I think just hearing that humanness, that part of us, even you bringing up Blue's Clues, I haven't thought about Blue's Clues in years. And then for even you to say with Steve, I'm like, oh, you really took it back. And
the OG, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that because my sister's goddaughter, we used to keep her a lot when she was a baby, and she
Mm.
loved Blue's Clues. And so we were forced to watch it and absolutely loved it. I did like it though. But that's just a glimpse into your background in terms of who you are. But Jared,
Mhm.
if a person asked you this question, how would you respond? Who is Jared Barto?
Oh, he's a great guy. You can't trust him, but he's a great guy. No, that's it. Um, I say that because as somebody that I've worked so many different types of jobs. I've done so
Hmm.
many different types of like careers of trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what I want to be when I grow up and that kind of stuff. And you find that there's a little bit of everything that
Hmm.
goes into that. So if I had to just kind of like encapsulate what you'd be able to say is I would find Jared Barto to be responsible enough to challenge you, but not ashamed enough to make a fool of himself to make you feel a little bit better about life.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Oh, I like that answer. No one's ever answered it exactly like that. What is the
That's what you
most
get with me, Alethea.
I love
That's
it though. Yeah,
the
that's fine. What about Jared Barto are you most proud of?
um I don't I don't know how to quit things.
Mm.
Like when I was part of growing up, whenever we would play outside with friends and all this kind of stuff, I I enjoyed I didn't care what side I was on, right? So I didn't care if I was on this team. I didn't care if I was this team. I mean, most of the time I was picked last anyway. So I didn't
Hmm.
really, I thought, well, how can I jump ahead of that? How, even at 8, how can I be ahead of that curve? Because I'm not getting picked, whatever. I'm like, what if I just volunteer to be the ref? To keep everything balanced, to keep everything on track. And if there's arguments over dodgeball or
Hmm.
kickball, like did it go in, did it go out? You guys can blame me because I'm an impartial party. I don't care who's winning. I just want to be here and have fun with everybody.
Hmm.
And that's really what led into a lot of where I am today of I just enjoy trying to find that balance with everybody and
Hmm.
knowing what the one extreme is over here, the one extreme is over there in life, and just being able to merge the two together. Of yeah, you can be really upset about something over here, but if you breathe for like 3 seconds, could you realize that maybe the other person has the same right to be upset, and that
Yeah,
there's some mutual grounds that you can find.
I like that. I do. And although we aren't going to touch heavily on this, we
Hmm.
are going to talk about what led you to it. But briefly, if you were to tell us what you did to make your living, what is your job title? What do you do? Tell us about that.
I was a huge fan of watching Office Space by Mike Judge way back in the day, in the old days, right? When things would go to VHS and not DVD. And my favorite question they always had in there is, so what would you say it is you do here? And
Mm,
ever since I watched it, then I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to describe. If I had to give a title, marketing director, business analysis, or business analyst, project
mhm,
manager, all that kind of stuff. And that molds into where I've been in life, where those types of roles, you make decisions, you stand by those decisions, even if they're right or wrong. But the end
mhm.
goal is to merge everything and make sure it's all functioning at one point. So and if I knew that at 8 that this is what I was going to do, I'd be like, yeah, don't change a thing, buddy. You're doing just fine. You're right on track.
Wow. And so I see from my angle, and if a person's listening to this, they can't see it, but you have your background with your company's logo in it, and it says
Mhm.
funnel fixer upper. Not everybody that listens to this is an entrepreneur or even a career person. This
Mhm.
audience for my podcast, I know people as young as their 20s all the way to literally people who are in their 80s who listen to this.
I love it.
So, yeah, and globally. So,
Mhm.
in simplest terms, explain to us what that means funnel fixer upper.
Simplest way is and hello everybody, the huge demographic. I'll make sure my
Yeah.
references touch everybody. So now that I know
Uh-huh.
like upper 80s,
It
like,
really
oh, I
is.
got some stuff. Let's do it.
Uh-huh.
I might even bring in some I Love Lucy stuff. You never know. It,
Yeah,
it all depends on where the
exactly.
conversations go. Um, the simplest way of doing my work is I work with people to figure out what might be happening in their business that makes them feel off. And it could be a systematic thing. It could be a personal thing. So this whole funnel fixer upper, if you think about it in a way that kind of relates to everybody, is that if we're in the dating field, we're funneling through people to figure out, do we want a long-term relationship? Are we just looking to spend time with somebody? What are we trying to do? A lot
Mm.
of businesses will put these together, these funnels, to be like, well, I want to serve everybody. I want to make a lot of money. And they go through this whole system of not really sure how they're going to do it or why they're going to do it. So my focus with the company Funnel Fixer Up is literally going through, fixing up anything that they might be breaking that they shouldn't be breaking, but ultimately leading to whatever that true passion is. And most of the time, it turns into more of a personal thing more than a business thing anyway.
Mm. Now, let's go in depth with not necessarily this, but your journey is quite amazing, and we don't just wake up one day and say this is what we want to do. We have a story behind it and everything like that. So, take us back some, Jared, to your childhood or parts of your earlier life where in alignment with this whole concept of the funnel fixer upper, tell us about a time in your life when something needed to be fixed and you found the solution to that. It could be something personal, it could be something tangible, but it's led to part of your transformation into who you are today.
Yeah. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of like fixings around the house. I am a very influential person, and
Mm,
I'm also kind of like a chameleon type of deal where I can absorb anybody's skill. If I watch it long enough, I can do it.
mm.
Um,
Wow.
and my stepdad and I, when I was growing up, he wanted me to play tennis with him. So he had somebody to play tennis with regularly and golf and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. And I didn't have a lot of good hand-eye coordination of how that was.
mm,
And they took me through private lessons through tennis, didn't like it. Private lessons through golf, didn't like the private lessons. So part of what I saw in myself was if I want to spend time with people that I care about, I might need to be willing to stretch a little bit beyond myself and maybe learn a skill that I'm not so good at, but at least I'm good enough that we can look past it and maybe get to something deeper. And I was already thinking about that at like 11, 12. I was the type of kid that I wanted to get in trouble outside, so I'd be grounded to stay inside. So I could write stories on a typewriter, so I could read
wow.
books. Yeah, I was like, oh no, I hope I don't get in trouble for this. And I do it, and be like, that's it, Jared. You're grounded for a week. You got to stay inside. I'm like, oh shucks,
Oh
I
my
can't believe this
gosh.
happened. But being able to like for us old hats, I would watch Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi
Mhm.
play matches together, and I would watch Pete play, and I'd watch Andre play, and I'm like, I think I could do what they're doing. So stepdad would take me over to the court, and I'd try what I saw, and he's like, "Where did you learn that from? Like, we didn't do less, we stopped lessons. Where did you learn?" I'm like, I guess I can just pick stuff up by watching it. I guess I have that ability, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I never beat him, but I was good competition.
Mm.
So he kept asking, "Hey, do you want to go out and play? Let's go out and play. Let's get you a new racket." Like, and that's when I
Wow.
started to think, what if that's just again, I didn't think like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, but
Mhm.
think if I wanted to really grow with people and have a strong connection, I wonder if this can translate into personal relationships in a more romantic way. If this can turn into just regular friendships, business connections, networking, all that. And that's kind of where it all really started was way back in that process.
It's quite interesting how you started to make those connections then. And I think that so much of our childhood influences some of our behaviors, even as adults. We're grown up
Mm.
versions of kids that have to have more responsibilities and more weight on our shoulders. But with that being said, the fact that you still tried it and you were great at it, even if you weren't there to actually beat your stepfather in the matches. It's just the fact of you observing yourself enhancing a skill and growing in a particular skill. And I think sometimes people can have a tendency to try something, and if they don't master it immediately, they just give up.
Mhm.
How, Jared, have you allowed yourself to not see yourself as a victim, but to just continue to have victories in your own way? Or was there a time when you had this victim mindset and you had to shift that into being a victor instead?
Yeah, that's great questions, and I like really good questions. So
Mm,
the deeper, darker questions, like I'm like, ooh, we get to really play with the shadow side of me. I
yeah.
love it. Um, I would say that I grew up in the whole mindset family life of you're going to find the one. Growing up in the church, it was all about finding
Hmm.
the pureness and all this, and some of it was indoctrination, some of it was I got to figure this out on my own.
Hmm.
But it turned into you go through the process. You find the spouse, you have the children, you have the house, you have all these things. And I started to pursue that. I'm like, this feels good, but it still feels like something's missing. It feels like I'm going off track, like what it doesn't make sense. And I would be overlooked for promotions and I'd be overlooked for growth. Like I could feel my relationship with my wife getting more tense. And I'm like, but I'm going to my job, I'm making money, I'm putting food on the table,
Hmm.
doing what you're supposed to do. Why does it seem like this is happening? And that's where I started to piece together of like, what if I just start keeping track of what's going on? What if I just start
Hmm.
paying attention to like the little journal of not even just like habits, but just write down what's happening for the day. I don't have to figure it all out. Just get something done. And that ultimately led into, I'm going to skip over a few things, but ultimately
Sure.
led into finding right people to talk with, right people to learn from, where they had made a suggestion to me of, Jared, I noticed that when you talk about things, you're bringing up this like, why does this keep happening to me? And it's like a phrase that you keep saying. And like,
Hmm.
well, what if we looked at this in this way? When you keep saying why, what if you translate that into it's like because yeah, not everybody believes in God like I do, and that's fine. It's your own personal journey. You guys walk where you walk. I've seen enough miracles and
Talk
saved from
about
death. Yeah, you know what
God.
I mean?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, if we got time, we'll get into that of
Yeah.
just attempts that didn't work, and that's how I know for sure.
Hmm.
But in any
Yeah.
event, so it turned into whenever you put that out there, when that why is followed, it's more of a confirmation of everything that keeps happening to you. Why
Mm.
does this keep happening? And then everything is just it's like reaffirmation of, well, you
Mhm.
keep saying this, you keep doing this, and then you give into that additional self-doubt, you give into to all this. But every time I'd be faced with that and down on the hands and knees and all this, there would
Mhm.
always be just some small flicker, which I know had to be God's voice, that was just like, you're not done yet. There's still more that has to be done, and you don't get
Yes.
the clock out, even if you want to. Um,
Wow.
and that was always the constant factor of, well, what if we do something different? And what if we change why to what can I do with this instead of why does this keep happening? What can I do with this? And that's where I started to see a shift.
Oh, and so that whole mindset of not seeing it as you being a victim to your circumstances, but rather what is it that you're supposed to get out of this? It also, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it also seems that it would teach you to avoid controlling life and to allow things to happen naturally.
Yeah. You we go through these situations in life where we have this particular outcome. We have this idea of what life should be like. And we plan it
Mhm.
out. We put this together. It's like we put vision boards together. We put all this.
Mhm.
And we don't realize that and maybe we do, we just don't care. We start putting expectations on that. We put strings to it that when we put something up on the vision board, we have these individual threads that we're like, well, it has to happen this way or else. And we keep
Mhm.
creating this or else, but nobody designed it like that. We did it as like a human condition of, well, it has to because I manifested it. I put it out there. It has to work, right? That's how it works. And the idea behind that is, and I found out when I was like 17, 18. I had a friend of mine who I was going to go out and visit in California.
Mhm.
And about a week before I got the tickets together and all that, friend of hers. This is back in the AOL Instant Messenger
Oh,
days.
yes.
AIM,
Uh-huh.
everybody, right? When you pop
Yeah.
on and you're like, who's on? Who can I talk to, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're customized. Like we're talking
And the
MySpace
little
days, guys.
chat rooms and
Oh my
all
gosh,
that.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like ASL, and you're like 15 male PA,
Yeah.
and that whole crap. See, I got a little bit of something for everybody. I could get into rotary phones if we really need
Oh,
to.
yes,
Um,
indeed. Uh-huh.
yes, prank calling that. All right, never mind, Jared. Stop that. But going back into that, my friend had actually taken her life,
Wow.
and her friend reached out to me and said, "Hey, if you still want to come out, you can. We're probably just going to do a vigil." And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to let me recollect what's going on over here." And that's when I
Hmm.
really needed to sit and have those conversations of I got to figure out how to let certain things just be and not try to,
Mm.
because I was really torn up. I was like, we had something going and we were going to, see if we could consummate that and all. And it
Oh, I
didn't work
see.
out in that way. Right.
Wow.
So I had to, that's, I think where a lot of that came in was that whole victim, like, well, what did I do? Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Everything was supposed to be great. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's where you start to realize maybe I got to let go of certain things, and maybe just kind of let life do what it does and just be as fluid with it as I can.
How old were you when that happened? You were still in your
Um,
teens, 20s? How old were you?
yeah, it probably be, I know I said 18, but the more I think about it, it's more like 20, 21
Jeez.
around that time it
Still though,
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just as you were entering manhood,
Yeah.
something like that happens, and that
Hmm.
that can really shift so much of how you
Hmm.
think if you allow it to happen. And so when something like that happens, Jared, how did you learn to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and still choosing to forge ahead instead of wallowing and sinking into your suffering?
Well, I had made an attempt to unalive around that
Okay.
time. And
Wow.
I had, I mean, I won't get graphic with any details or
Yeah.
anything. But I knew like it wasn't for attention. It was just, I can't see my purpose. I just don't, because it
Mhm.
just seemed one after the other of parents get divorced, remarried,
Mhm.
divorced, remarried. And it's like trying to find value and feel like you're valuable. Um,
Mhm.
and then people telling you that you're valuable, but it's like they're your parents, they're your family. You felt this obligation that they had to. And I was like, just this doesn't seem worth it. I don't see why I need to do this anymore. And no matter how many times I tried to pierce the skin with the blades, and they were sharp. It couldn't. No matter how
Mhm.
much strength I did, it just wouldn't penetrate. And then
Mm.
in my anger, I threw it, and it had no problem cutting right into a piece of cardboard. And I was
Wow.
like, okay, all right, miracles. I believe it. I see it. I
That's
don't have to be
right.
convinced anymore ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people are like, "Is God real?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that there was something stopping that happening. That there had to
Of
be
course.
something bigger.
Of
And
course.
that's where the journey really started, was looking at it from that perspective of how many other people feel this way? How many other people are doing this every single day and just letting it chip away moment by moment? That a demon of self-doubt, a demon of a
Yeah.
lack of value, of worth something, and feeling like you're just not enough, but you're too much all at the same time. And I'm like, I wasn't mastering anything at that point, but it was just at least the awareness, the
Mhm.
acknowledgement that something is happening, that maybe I should pay attention. And that's when I dove right into like progressive rock metal and kind of these like, singing bands and just longer songs. And that really birthed the metal
Mhm.
appreciation in my life. But
Mhm.
again, that's where it all started, was right around that time.
And so, Jared, when you look back on that time period, then and where you are now, take us to the moment where you had a greater awareness of your life was meant for more in terms of service, in terms of helping, in terms of guiding people towards something that would even make their lives even better. Because what you do does that, even if that's not what you've always done. The role you're in now and the work you do in the company that you lead and build is actually doing that. So when something like that happens, even during times when you felt temporarily that life was not worth living, what was that catalyst, that push, that shift that got you to just devote your life to a life of service?
It was. You know, when people say like you grow better together, but
Mm-hmm.
like in smaller little communities, like two or more are getting together and all this. We had a small group together through our church
Mm-hmm.
that we and it wasn't like a Presbyterian or a Methodist or a Lutheran, not like any of
Oh,
the denomination. It was just more of a let's just study scripture, let's just grow together and see what the word says and just live life in that
yeah.
way. Um, and that's a whole other topic I could really dive into. But for the sake of this, is we were having a little session where previously we were looking, and I don't remember which scripture we were looking at or what the context was. I just remember writing notes that every week that when we got into like prayer time, I just write down people's names and just like real quick,
Mm.
like what did they say? And then a hyphen, like what did they say? Who are they? And then a hyphen real quick. And then I looked it over and I never put my own name on the list. And I
Ooh.
was like, why did I never put my own name on this list? Like, what's wrong with like praying for me too? Like, what's wrong with? And I was like, I realized I never really shared anything like deep. And I'm like, if this is the time in a small group to share deep, this would be the way to do it. And the words couldn't come to me, but all I remember writing down in this little journal was value. It's just the
Mm.
word value. And I could feel like the breakdown happening. And I'm like, I don't feel that. I don't feel any sense of value.
Mm.
And I started getting mad. It's like, why don't I feel again? That whole, remember we were talking earlier, the why don't I
Mm-hmm.
feel it? And all I'm like, okay, stop. What can I do to feel valuable? I'm like, okay, it's not a do thing. What can I be to feel valuable? And I'm like, well, it's not really a be thing. And that's when it started to all connect. I'm like, I'm inherently valuable. Just as
Mm-hmm.
existing, I'm already valuable enough.
That's right.
Um, and of course, following Christ and
Of
believing in God, that
course.
makes it even like amplified.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need that to feel valuable. It just makes it better. Like there's so much more on that side than just feeling yourself. And that was when it really started to click in of this is why I couldn't quit, even if I wanted to. This is why the blades wouldn't pierce. This is why. Like it was to that moment of, oh my gosh, I got to think about things a little bit differently. And instead of asking questions like, why are you doing this? Or why is this happening? Is more, what am I doing? What am I being like that is welcoming this? And do I really want this? Or
Mm-hmm.
am I supposed to learn this for somebody else? And it turned into more of like a work shopping instead of a worry shopping, you know?
Ooh, workshop instead of worry shopping. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
How did your life really change once you recognize your inherent value? What transformed for you?
Well, when the tears stopped flowing and I started to, collect myself and everything, it almost felt like a new view of discovery of
Mm.
seeing the people around me and being able to feel vulnerable again, like I was as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at this of, am the way that I am right now as a being doing whatever, am I bringing value to somebody else's life or am I becoming a burden for them? And that's
Mm.
when I started to think about, well, how do human connections work? So it took me on a journey of just more discovery, not just studying scripture, but a lot of books, a lot of reading, a lot of Happy Pocket Full of Money, a lot of Think and Grow Rich, a lot of any of the ones you can start to name
That's
into it,
right.
instead of just thinking, well, this is an end goal. I'm more like, what can I do to refine in this moment? When a moment's given to me, do I give myself 3 seconds to pause? Do I just react or instead of respond? Like, what am I doing? And it was going back and listening to all these other people that had been trying to pour into me. And I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really paying attention, but my subconscious was listening to everything. And it was
That's
just,
right.
it felt like an unending level of resource that just forced into, okay, well, here you are. You can't go back. You could try, but you can't go back. It's not everything's burned. It's just that has nothing for me over here. I can't
Mm-hmm.
see any, you wouldn't take your seeds to go plant and grow crops in dead land. You wouldn't. So why would I go back to all those things? I'm just going to move
Mm-hmm.
forward over here and see what we can get.
And I think that is so key that as you were talking, I was visualizing this process. And I think it's so important that we pay attention to our minds and our thoughts And when we do that, then the world around us changes. And even with you talking about in the subconscious, there are things in our subconscious that can become our realities, whether they're good or bad,
Mhm.
um, if we leave certain negative things unchecked, then it can become the world to us. And I think that it's so important to really shift and change our way of thinking. And I think about you, about that situation that happened early on in your 20s with a person that
Mhm.
you genuinely thought you could build something with, and to see now of where you are about how God makes all things new.
Mm.
And that is what's so beautiful about your stories, because now you have a family, you have a business, everything in life comes full circle. And so, in talking about your business and being this funnel fixer upper, take us to when you decided, and I asked you something similar earlier about what your business actually does, but take us to that adventure,
Mm.
Jared, when you said, I'm going to really start this business. I'm going to go hard in it and I'm going to do this. Tell us about how that happened and how that has shifted your life in a meaningful way.
Oh boy. All right. Well, buckle in because I've talked about this before, Alethea, but just for you, just because I like you, I'm going to give
Yes.
you a little bit more of the details that I
Uh-huh.
haven't really shared with anybody else yet. I know
Uh-huh.
you get people that are like, because I'm a guest here, I'm gonna give you the scoop. This is a real
Uh-huh.
deal. I haven't really talked in depth about this one. Um, there was a lot of jobs that I worked where I didn't feel qualified. Like I feel
Mm.
like I sold myself really well, but then I'm like, I sit at the desk going, what did I do? I don't know if I could do this work. This feels,
Oh.
I don't mind the pay, but I feel like I'm taking up somebody else's seat. And I started to
Mm.
feel that right around like 2014. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I like the work that I'm doing, but I don't like this company. I don't like the environment. And I felt like I was being too picky. Of like, well, maybe just, tough it out. Cause that was the old school way of just shut your
Mhm.
mouth, stay long enough and get your tenure, and then you'll be fine.
That's
I'm like,
right.
no, I'm
Yeah.
miserable. Like I'm
Uh-huh.
not having a good time. And I'm raising small children right now with my wife in 2014, and they're going to emulate that. Like they'll see that I'm exhausted and tired and upset, and I don't want that for them, and I don't want it for me. That seems weird. So
Mhm.
I started doing a lot of job hopping from 2014 all the way till about 2017, 2018.
Mhm.
And it was in that moment, it was right around November of 2017. I was working at a bank. There was a big project that we needed to get done. They wanted to do automated lending from the very beginning of filling out a form to going right to underwriting so you get your money, right? As a small business
Uh-huh.
owner, I was like, oh, I don't realize everything that was coming together. So this was before like AI was really big and everything. I'm
Of
like, and by the
course.
way, this whole machine learning language has been around since like the 60s,
Yes,
70s.
it
We're talking
has.
Pong days,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When computers were actually really big buildings, and when people would say there's a bug in a system, it was literally cockroaches, right? We're talking way back, abacus days. Maybe that's going too far,
Yes, but
but
I
anyway,
look, I'll put it like this. There's a Twilight Zone episode from the 60s that's about a big computer that starts to take over this person's life. And I'm like, that was AI then. And that's so
yeah, it's
much.
it's nothing to like. It's the whole
Anyway,
thing.
yeah.
Oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's a
Yeah.
whole I talk about it with my business stuff because I'm like, you guys just need to take a breath and slow down. It's like, can we do this? I'm like, you're already doing it. Just shut up and leave it alone.
Exactly.
In any event, so I was all my work was always getting every day was getting put down or graded or checked on. And I was just getting to that point of frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Having somebody constantly over your shoulder who's a good guy,
Micromanaging.
great into the
Yeah.
100 micromanagement. And it's not because he wanted to do it. He was really good. My manager was amazing. We both were strong-willed, so we butted heads a lot. Now that I'm not working under him, I'm like, I wish I would have met him outside of work because he is chill. He's
Oh, I
awesome, right? Those
see.
types of
I
people,
got you.
right?
Yes, yes.
If it was different at different instances, we'd probably be
I
doing
know.
CrossFit workouts together today.
Uh-huh,
But
yeah.
anyway, blessings to him
I
and
know
his
what you
family.
mean.
So we were dealing with that, and there was a project. Now, again, working for a bank, I don't know if a lot of your listeners might know, but most of IT in a banking world will be kind of on call a lot. Most of the
I did
system
not
changes
realize
happen
that
on the
actually.
weekend. Yeah. So a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
that. Yeah, because nobody could the branches can't be open when
Oh,
we
you're
make business
right.
changes. Hmm.
They would have to do a lot of their work on weekends.
Yep.
That makes sense.
So
Okay,
I
go
would
ahead.
work full time Monday through Friday, and
Hmm.
then most weekends I was still working. And it was now thankfully it wasn't like all weekend. It was just kind of on call, but we would shuffle through, and especially when we were working on this bigger project. So there was a bank rollout that needed to happen. I didn't want to be a part of it, but still had to. And it was also Thanksgiving weekend, and we were working Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh.
And so that was like I'm already irritated, but here's the nail in the coffin. The one that really set me off of things have to change. Not only was I getting graded every day on my work and I had to present reports every day for like 2 weeks that, well, Jared, he doesn't seem qualified for this role. And like I'm a business analyst. First off, don't do that because I will have tons of documents that prove why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's great. And anyway, so it was needed to work there. And then my wife and kids, they got an opportunity to go to like a water park that was like about an hour and a half away from us. Excuse me, in the Poconos. It was indoor and all that.
Hmm.
I couldn't go because I was on call working. So not only was I prepping and I'm like, well, I'll try to make the most of this, right? Again, victim to Victor. I'll try to make the most of this and just, be excited about it. But I could not get excited for the fact that they the kids were not understanding why I couldn't go, and they were sad. And I'm like, well, I have to work, and I'm like, but it's the weekend. It's going into Cyber Monday. Before Cyber Monday, it was like it's going. Why are you working? I thought you'd be off of work. And they left. And in my frustration, I actually this is the part I really hadn't told anybody. Um, there was a small railing that was going down into like a little rec room area we had at the time. And I was so frustrated with myself for allowing this to happen that in one kick, I broke the whole railing off of that. And I'm like,
Mm.
well, now I have another home project I'm going to have to do. And my anger created even more work for myself that turned into rage. And I'm like, that's not good. We don't want this. So clearly I had some shadow work I had to deal with at that
Yeah.
point. But it was in that moment that I was like, okay, this has to change. Something has to shift. There has to be a change because I want to spend more time with them and not
Yeah.
spend more time with work. And that's really what was like, so what can I do for myself? I'm like, well, why don't you just do what you're doing now, but do it privately? I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I didn't touch that for like 3 years. I did everything else
Oh.
but that. And I'm like, oh, and then as soon as I did, that's where Funnel Fixer Upper kicked in and the whole process took off.
Wow. That is a quite powerful story. And it's so interesting, Jared, is that there are so many people that literally have those breaking points
Yeah.
where they say, I can't keep living like this because
Mm,
it's almost as if you become enslaved to the work. You become enslaved. Work becomes the idol. And
mm-hmm,
there has to be something that changes because when we start idolizing it, yes, you have to earn a living. And with men, that is a truly extreme pressure. I think, and y'all, I don't need emails or anything like that, but I
I'll
think
take the
that
email, send them.
you know, I think that if a woman doesn't work outside of the home, it's not looked at in a negative way. But if a man isn't working, people are going to side eye and say, "What's wrong with him?" Even in 2025, we can talk about equality all we want. There's still certain things that people will still quietly snicker about. And so you were doing what you were supposed to do as a man and working, but it went to this extreme
Mm,
form of you literally not having time to also be that husband and father full
mm,
time you were expected to be. So it's like, where is the balance? Not to say you weren't there, but the fact that it didn't even out. And I personally don't think 100% balance in every area is fully attainable. There's always going to be
mhm,
something a little off. But if work is all the way up here and then your home life is starting to decrease, then of course something has to give. So how
mhm,
then do you tell a person who may want to play devil's advocate and say, well, you've got to make that money, you got to make that living, you got to
mhm.
go after earning as much as you can. How then does a person shift from that whole aspect of chasing money versus relying on money?
There's a and everything you said was true. And again, I can speak from the male side of that because it is. There's always that on the back burner. And the joke is always, well, all you got to do is work. Like, okay, there's a lot of inherent that comes with that. Not to be like, oh, woe is me because of this, or I lost this, or I lost that. But when you start, whatever you start putting your focus on, that becomes
Mm.
more of like the godlike thing in your life, the master, the idol, whatever you want to call it, the thing that you're like, this is my goal, this is my thing. And when you make money, the attainable, and you go after that, um, and you anybody listening, watching, you go on your own journey, try it out if you want. I'm going to save you a lot of headache, a lot of time. Just recovered from that about a month ago
Yeah.
of making money your master for about 2.5 years,
Yeah.
and you stop caring about the things you cared about because it didn't have money involved. You started to look at this of, well, now that I have it, I'm worried I'm not going to get enough of it. So you start micromanaging the
Mm.
people that you said you love. Again, the very thing I didn't want in my own life, I started doing in everybody else's life. I stopped showing up in ways that I wanted to at my best because I kept going, well, what's the pay in it for me? It's pointless to do this. If I'm not getting this number, why do I bother showing up at all? And then deal with that of me supposedly saying, well, I'm walking with Christ, but then focusing on money as like the big thing. I was very clear in New Testament that that's a big no, and we
Yeah.
can't serve both. So you got to pick one. And for 2.5 years, I picked the other. That didn't hit until a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm hopping off social media for a while. Here's my number if you want to talk. So I was like, dude, let's stay connected and all this. He saw me at marketing events. He saw me at like mastermind events. And I was like, yeah, man, just trying to walk the walk with Christ and everything. He's like, oh, I didn't even know you were a believer.
Mm.
And that's the part where I'm like,
Wow.
how far into this depths did I really, really go when people used to be like, how are you able to keep a smile on your face when it seems like everything is burning down around you? 900 negative in the account, still to smile on the face, still raising a kid, still having a really good time. Like, how did you do it? It was like, oh, it's really God. I don't know how else I could say it.
Yeah.
But now, if you'd had negative in the account, it's like, well, it's kind of on you, buddy, because that's where you started to put all your attention. Money is
Wow.
important because in this society, it is required to get food onto the table, unless I'm going to buy land and hunt on my own land. But then I
That's
need to
right.
buy it, which is crazy to buy land. But whatever, another topic
Yeah.
for another time. If you want me back, we'll talk about some of those things. Um, but that's where it started to turn into. It didn't really make sense until I started screaming in my mind, in my soul, hands down. I'm looking at the spot that all happened, locked the door, bawling my eyes out, just gross, everything.
Mhm.
And I'm like, where are you? Why are you not with me? And that's when I kind of did that, like, look over my shoulder, and I could see like God in that moment. I'm like, oh, it was me. It was me that wasn't looking at you. You've been here the whole friggin'
That's right.
time, and I'm the one who
Yeah.
pushed you. Again, we try to blame everything outside instead of the choices we're making on the
Yeah.
inside to reflect what could be happening. That doesn't mean everything goes in my way now. It doesn't mean that. It's a different way of, I don't have to worry about the things I was worrying about. If I've done everything I can today, if I've planted the seed, if I've watered the seed, it's not my job to worry about the increase that comes from that.
Mhm.
That's out of my control. We come back to, these are the things I can't control, and I'm all right with that. I have a reason then I can be like, hey, you told me to come here. You told me to do these things. You told me you'd take care of it. Where is it? I did what you told
Mhm.
me to. I'm allowed to be like this. I'm not angry at you. I'm just asking, where's the money, Lebowski? Like, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
where is everything? And
Yeah.
that's where the relationship is now. I can openly talk about that because I don't have money as the master. And then
That's
every
right.
time that happens, it's like a couple days later, something clears up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no panic. Could have done a little bit faster, don't you think? But no panic. It's fine. It's all
Mhm.
good. Everything's good.
And how has that affected your home and your family life now with you not making money as your master? Of course, it's a resource, but with you making this shift into your own business, and that does take up a lot of time, but
Mhm.
how how have you learned to put first things first in realigning your home life to really be what it's supposed to be?
So it turned into a lot of conversations that was, I was subconsciously telling all the kids with my verbal side and physical side, I'm trying to provide everything for you guys. You guys want to do this, you want to do that, and I'm trying my hardest to provide. And again, realizing like I'm not the main provider. I am part of the
Yeah.
provider. There's a bigger main provider to rely on. So our conversations have shifted, going, hey, listen, if I ask you to do something around the house, it's because I'm doing it. If I want you to help with the dishes, it's because I'm washing the dishes. I'm leading and showing you this is why I'm doing it. That's a little like tip, everybody. If you want somebody in your life to do something, show them how to do it first, and
Yeah.
then take that ownership. Like if we're having a family conversation, and one of the combos we had is we were all just kind of fighting. I'm like, okay, we're just fighting for fighting. This doesn't make sense. Let's actually have a purpose. So I was like, what's one thing that you can do to let everybody else in the family know that maybe you're upset by this? Maybe it's hurting you. And it got
Mm,
quiet. I'm like, how about I go first? I'll give you an example. I tend to react with emotions instead of responding. So I can't
mm,
task you guys to respond if I'm not responding first. So why don't we do this? Every time something's going on, I'd like all of you to help keep me accountable, if you can, if you're willing, that when a conversation comes up and I want to react in like such a, I can't tell you how many times I've told you to do this. What if I just slow down a bit and go, is there something, am I doing something that's stopping you from getting done what you'd like to get done?
yeah.
Is a response like that better? And of course, everyone's like, yeah, that's a lot better. I was like, so I'm going to ask you to keep me accountable for that. Please hold me to that. That when things happen again, because they will,
Hmm.
keep me on check with that. And then it got a little quiet. And then when my son's popped in, he's like, well, I guess maybe I can be a little bit, more mature with some of the things that I say and not think my sisters are always angry at me because they're angry.
Wow.
And then wife chimes in, and then daughter chimes in. Like that's the kind of stuff that this shift happens when money is not. I was just talking with another person about this today. When the love of money and making it the master is the root of the
That's
evil,
right. Hmm.
knowing that it's there and you're looking for it and saying, I'm going to do this to help. This is what it is. This is the cost behind it. That's not serving it. It's saying, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do this. And if I didn't have to need this, I'd still do it for you. But
Hmm.
because I do, this is where it is. This is what's required for it. Do you want to do this or not? That is a whole different way. And it allows you on a personal side to then realize if you want something from somebody, what am I willing to give in order to get out of this relationship instead of constantly trying to pull from my family? I'm the dad, just do what I say instead of do, because that's what I grew up in. Instead of doing that, what can I give them to get something out? And that's the hugest
Wow.
shift that occurred.
It is. And I like that whole giving aspect of it. And just as you give to the clients that you serve, as we start to come to a close, Jared, I will have one more closing question for you, but let's just take a
Yeah.
brief pivot here. How could someone connect with you if they want to do business with you or inquire about your services? How can they contact you?
So even though I was blacklisted by Google a couple years ago, we're on
Oh,
good
really?
graces. If you, oh, that's a whole other conversation.
Oh,
If
Lord.
you, I didn't do anything wrong, okay,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't do things right either. So it
Okay.
was kind of
Okay.
one of those. It was me, but not me at the same time. If you Google Jared Barto, you'll probably get websites. You'll probably get all this. I'm most active on Facebook because apparently to the kids I'm old. So there you go. That's simply Jared Barto. You'll find me there. The website is thefunnelfixerupper.com. But again, that's more just like business focus and all that. But I do think if I don't have a personal website, it's probably redirecting to the business side.
Okay.
Jared Bartow on Facebook's probably like the best place. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. And I'll also have that in the show notes. And so, Jared, as we come to a close here, I simply want to ask you in terms of you as a victor of
Mm.
life, you having victory after victories, what is one victory that has truly shaped and enhanced the person you are today? If you could think about everything that's happened in your life,
Yeah.
What is the one victory that you can truly say has been either the most meaningful or something that has truly led to you being you?
So there was a point in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We had moved into a new rental place because we had to sell the home we were in because of just, bad financial decisions. We just couldn't upkeep it anymore. And I was going through this journey of maybe I'm doing the wrong thing with this work. Maybe me starting this work is the wrong thing. And I tried to give it up. I tried to get rid of it. And God just keep throwing it back in my lap. And I was like, well, if you're going to keep throwing this back in my lap, you got to give me solutions because I have no problem working another job just to make money and just shut up and do what you need me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming to a realization where my wife and I were, Regina's just arguing's sake. And it was never negative or mean. It was just, we couldn't find like a good peaceful spot to be on. And I really sat and meditated on that, prayed on it. And I asked her, I feel like I'm holding you back. I feel like my journey of trying to figure out who I am is stopping you from being who you want to be. And I never once asked you what you wanted out of all of this. I just assumed that because we were married that you implicitly trusted me and I stopped asking and caring about your side of it. Do you feel like I'm holding you back? Because I feel like I am.
Mm.
And that one bit of conversation was the biggest shift into where we are today.
Wow.
It wasn't putting pressure on her. It wasn't pressure on me. I was like, because if I am holding you back, I will help you find another place to go. I will help you go where you need to be. Not that I'm trying to get rid of you. I love so much about you that I couldn't imagine myself being the roadblock stopping you from where you need to be. And that's where it just kind of, it shifted everything. That doesn't mean everything went in our favor. We still lost that place we were living in. We had to go other places. But that right there was, we were ready to go through whatever fires it were together. Right.
Wow.
We were ready to fight anything. And then the kids see that and they're grossed out because we're lovey-dovey now. And we're like super into each other. And, we're 14 years married, 16 years together. And it's like, it just feels like we're just dating for the first time again. Like,
wow.
That little shift, Alethea, that was the one. So anybody in those relationships, it's okay to have those conversations because that's a real deal conversation.
Yeah.
And if that person says, yeah, I do feel like you're holding me back, that doesn't mean the relationship's over. It just means that's a point that you two can figure something out. You either do it together or help each other get to where you need to go.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.